Story on in your interest is with regard to what is technically happening with the major floods. But after that, which we'll be getting you another important story, is about how crumbling infrastructure is affecting the urban centers in Bengaluru as well as in Gurugram and the rest of the country. The third story, of course, is about how Bangladesh will be part of the Mecca Pact. All this and more as we give you the first part of it, the headlines. Major floods hit northern Nepal, sweeping through Raswa district, claiming at least 95 lives. Over 100 Indians among 291 foreigners missing in flash floods. Chief Ministers of Bihar and Uttar Pradesh issue advisory over Nepal floods, convey local administration to ensure preparedness. Food Safety and Standards Authority of India issues notices to 2 hotels in Delhi's Aero City over safety lapses, including foul smell, cockroaches, flies in kitchen as well. Jiva withdraws Raksha Bandhan advertisement featuring Kirti Sanan over criticism of her attire in festive advertisement. The story that we are talking about is the tale of 2 cities as what we will bring you first. This is a symptomatic of what is happening across our country's urban cities. Let us tell you about a sinkhole in Gurugram. A large sinkhole appearing on the service road near Gurugram's IFFCO Chowk a day after heavy rain caused widespread waterlogging and traffic disruption across the city. The affected stretch lies along the Delhi-Jaipur side of the road near the Western Hotel. A section measuring approximately 10 feet by 10 feet caved around 3 p.m. on Tuesday. The collapse disrupted traffic movement near the Gurugram's busiest junctions. According to National Highways Authority of India, a preliminary inspection indicated leakage from the GMDA sewer line running beneath the road, which led to the soil erosion and subsidence, which made the sinkhole. That's in Gurugram. Now let us see another instance of poor infra in India's Silicon Valley, Bengaluru. Residents in Anekal called out the local MLA over poor roads in the area. The issue was amplified with Biocon executive chairperson Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw posting on platform X. The Congress MLA B. Shivanna responded asking corporates to fund the infrastructure projects from their CSR funds. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw shot back, saying that it is abdication of responsibility. What is happening in Gurugram and Bengaluru are the same infrastructure challenges faced by Indian cities across the country. Why is it that our urban infrastructure is crumbling? Why is it that there is investment into infrastructure, but that does not translate into quality infrastructure? Can India become Viksit Bharat with this kind of an infra that is hoping to keep our cities going? Now, to discuss more about this, we have with us Sandeep Anirudhan, social activist, Dr. Nisha Nijumuddin, public policy expert, and we have also Dikshu C. Kukreja, architect and town planner. Let me in fact first come to Dr. Nisha Nijumuddin, who will be joining us in a short while. Sandeep Anirudhan in fact joins us. Sandeep, what is ailing our cities? Because urban infrastructure is something which is an investment for at least a generation. Here, it doesn't even last 1 year. Some of the biggest infrastructure also tends to in fact collapse. We don't have proper roads, Roads are becoming or having sinkholes because of bad planning. We do not have proper bridges that tend to be washed away. What is happening with India's urban infrastructure?
Thanks for having me on your show. If you get to the bottom of it, Karthik, the issue is that you're talking of planning, but the issue is there is no planning. Our cities lack the necessary capacity to plan. Now, it's all good to ask for planning, but shouldn't you have Singapore has about 200 or 500 urban planners. Dubai similarly has about 200 or 500. Those are small cities compared to Bangalore. Now, if you ask how many urban planners Bengaluru has, I don't know if you'll be shocked or not, but it is zero. So, where is a city that plans with 500 planners? Where is a city that plans with zero planners? And this is true not only of Bengaluru, it's true of all the cities in India. And what is the constitutional mandate? Now, it's shameful that, the constitution has to tell us what to do and we still don't do it. The constitutional mandate in the 74th Amendment passed in 1992 is that a city should have a planning authority called the Metropolitan Planning Committee. It is entrusted with the powers to holistically master plan for the city. Show me how many cities in India have a Metropolitan Planning Committee. So the cities don't even have the mandated authority under the constitution. So our politicians and bureaucrats, they violate our constitution and affect the interests of our public. That's how bad it is. If you start picking, you can pick so many holes in the entire state of affairs. It's really pathetic. Our politicians and bureaucrats, one, do not comply with the law of the land. They do not comply with the constitution, number one. If it's any other law, that's different. They don't comply with the constitution, and then they don't comply with various laws of the land and violate the mandate for planning and governance of our cities. So this is not just about planning, it's also about governance. In the planning itself, it's mandated that there be bottom-up planning, which means you have to have, one is for the city, you have the Metropolitan Planning Committee, or for the district. It's very interesting, every district is mandated to have a district planning committee. How many districts have that? And these laws are 36 years old. It's not yesterday. You had 3 decades to, capacitate our government with this. It's not yet happened. And on the governance front, it's clearly mandated that every city should have a devolved, decentralized, unified, autonomous, and elected city government. How many cities or towns in our country actually abide by this? So we neither have grassroots governance, nor do we have planned development. And Bengaluru's case is atrocious. It's notorious because the Supreme Court in 2023, January, when it was adjudicating a case regarding a violation in Chandigarh, it devoted 2 pages in that judgment to Bengaluru about how Bangalore is a bad example. It was telling Chandigarh not to become a Bangalore. What it said is Bengaluru is a template for urban ruin due to unplanned development. I think it was summarized. The judge got it precisely correct. And this ails pretty much every city in India now. Nobody is learning from the mistakes of Bengaluru. That is the worst bit. And you know what the judge did in that judgment? The judge ordered the registry to send this judgment to every chief secretary and ask them to take corrective action so they don't become a Bengaluru. But Gurugram has not learned. It is becoming a Bangalore. Hyderabad has not learned. It's becoming a Bengaluru. And I think every other city in India will become a Bengaluru. All these cities will collapse. If you look at the total loss of services of this city, I'm talking in terms of environment. Bengaluru is a city which had 70% green cover and almost 40% blue cover. I'm talking of wetland. Now we are left with nearly just 2 to 3% of green cover and blue cover. The net loss is almost 97%. We are becoming unlivable. And concretization from 8% in the 1970s, it has become almost 95 to 98%. So totally, we are just becoming a concrete desert with zero livability. And when it comes to infrastructure, because this gap is there between planning and actual development happening, there is no planning for mobility. What happens is what happens accidentally. If we had a holistic plan, then we would have mass rapid transit, we would have end-to-end connectivity, you would have last mile connect, you would have, walkable pavements, you would have cycling lanes. This is the norm worldwide. We are almost a primitive city, which, the roads are not sufficient, but roads will never be sufficient, mind you. When you have dense population, the only option is to have mass rapid transit. You cannot have roads. How much roads will you build? If you build roads for the population of Bengaluru, you will have to take away half the city. It's impossible to do that. You look at Tokyo, which decades ago set up, huge mass rapid transit infrastructure,
Let me
and
get
they've never had to buy cars.
Dikshu Kukreja also, who's an architect and town planner, also into the conversation. Dikshu, how do you in fact see modern Indian cities? You have the population growth that's happening on two fronts. One, you have a lot of people migrating to these urban centers. The pressure is already there on the existing infrastructure. Of course, bad infrastructure is being built at the same time. No planning is being done. No idea of how the drains work. It just takes one rain to expose our cities. One rain can bring, a heavy rain can bring our cities to a standstill. There is a big problem that we are not addressing. Our urban centers technically are falling at the seams.
Yes, well, thank you for seeking my input on this matter. And I would like to give a different perspective. It's not just about planning, but what I want to talk about here is that the way we are approaching this whole concept of creating the infrastructure, building this infrastructure, I believe is fundamentally flawed. And I'll explain you why I say that. In which part of the world, when you are developing infrastructure, which is, like you rightly mentioned in your report, meant to outlast generations, why would you choose a system which is so penny wise, pound foolish? And by that I mean the mere process of selection of consultants who design and plan, as well as execution agencies who come and construct. We are still reveling in the system of L1, which means whoever quotes the lowest price is going to get the job. And under the fear, bureaucrats talk about the CVC guidelines. For God's sake, let's review that. That's not the way cities can be built. You have to give value to technical expertise, technical strength, and not just say that whoever will build the cheapest will get the job. Well, that's the result you will get if you're going to go for the cheapest. So it's high time we look at these fundamental processes of actual procurement. After that comes the other aspects, that how does execution take place? And for that, the whole aspect of how these works are supervised is really abysmally pathetic, because the authorities turn a blind eye to the execution work that is going on, the right tests which have to be done at the right time. For example, you just in your report mentioned the cave-in of the road at IFFCO Chowk. Now, if there's a sewer line leaking there, obviously that's going to have an effect on the foundation or the subsoil below the road. Why is the sewer line leaking? Has it ever been maintained? There is technology today which is non-pervasive technology, that just by X-rays and radars and non-destructive systems, you can actually test what services are running underground and what is the state of the condition. Why don't we ever do that? We revel in the fact that we built something, we never go back and maintain it. Can a human body remain healthy if it's not going to maintenance? Same holds for infrastructure as well. So these fundamental aspects and approach, who is going to change this? So whether it's the story of Bengaluru or Gurugram or Kolkata or Chennai or Mumbai or Jabalpur, it's the same story binding and uniting our country. We need to figure out that the way this infrastructure, I think the government has an excellent vision that we want to become Viksit Bharat, that we want to develop our cities.
But that's the question that I'm asking. How is it possible to become a Viksit Bharat with this kind of infrastructure? And it is not this old infrastructure that's crumbling. Even your new infrastructure is crumbling.
With the vision, the process needs to change. You can't have archaic processes. Even the design calculations, let me tell you, which are done, are based on historical data of rainfall. Today, with climate change, and you're reporting about the devastating floods in Nepal, and you know devastation going on across the world, you need to have, which is there on our fingertips, future projecting data and design on that basis. Why are you designing on historical data? So these aspects, unless they are reviewed fundamentally, we can keep talking about authorities and missing authorities and, lack of representation in them, and they are not looking at how to do things. But we have to fundamentally change the way planning of cities is done. One more point I'd like to add to that. that yes, you might think it's slightly digressing from it, but I believe it's fundamentally intrinsic, which is we need to look at alternatives to urban migration. How much can one place absorb? And here, with the kind of urban migration that is taking in all the cities that you're naming, the infrastructure is failing. In other parts of the world, first infrastructure is laid in a planned manner, then you do development. Gurgaon is another story altogether. So is Bengaluru. So these kind of cases is not the right solution. So we need to look at this more holistically. And I hope and pray that people start, and the policymakers and those who are actually sitting at the helm on these decisions can actually start stepping back and seeing what is going wrong. These are my observations, which I hope can make a difference somewhere.
Right. Sandeep, I just wanted to ask, because, the Prime Minister has taken this matter quite seriously, because, this government wants to push a lot of infrastructure projects. They have been investing in infrastructure projects. And today he called up the secretaries and told them, especially from the state as well as from the union government, he told them that, do you require a fourth audit to actually see the quality? Why aren't you doing your job? Now, that shows that there's a lot of money being spent on infrastructure, and that money is not showing the quality for that. The infrastructure is not showing the quality for the money that is spent. That's a serious concern.
So, Varghese, I actually, a few points that Dikshu brought up, they're very valid. But then that's why I come back to the management problem. The issue is, who is going to set up these processes? Who has the technical expertise? Who can actually plan properly, right? And the mandated body under the 74th Amendment of our Constitution is the Metropolitan Planning Committee, because it has to have the panel of experts. It has to have the urban planners. It has to have the regional planners. It has to have the transport planners. It has to have economists, ecologists. It has to have sociologists, all of them. Because when it comes to
what
planning,
Dikshu is saying that, the government is relying on old data. Completely old data, completely old population projections, completely climate data also, it's relying on something old, and therefore the foundation of your planning itself is wrong. Your data that you are processing is wrong for the project.
That's because we don't have the capacity to plan. The capacity we are mandated to set up is the Metropolitan Planning Committee and the District Planning Committee. They are supposed to have the experts who will actually keep revising these.
Gurgaon and Bengaluru have these, Sandeep. And yet the result is in front of us.
No, so wait a second. Dikshu, I don't know about Gurgaon. Bangalore doesn't. It has never had. It's 36 years we don't have a Metropolitan Planning Committee. And our city government is also overrun by the government. We have no devolution. We haven't had elections for 5 years. For 10 years. So we literally have no city government. And the other thing, Varghese, what we need to understand is the Prime Minister can say what he wants. But these are all issues that come under the third tier. It's the city government that has to address these issues. And the city government is the least empowered. The state government keeps poking its nose. In fact, most of those projects, forget about the implementation, forget about the technical aspects of it. The plan itself is flawed. And the high courts have ruled that the cities should never take up projects which are not part of a master plan. But every single project these cities, at least Bengaluru does, they are off master plan. They'll come up with these contractor-driven projects, we call them. Contractor-driven or kickback-driven projects. Some consultant walks into the government and says, I'll build a flyover here or a tunnel here or this, and we'll give you so much kickback. That is just about the reason why the state government takes up these projects. They override the city governments. The city governments have no say. They keep them disempowered. And they just impose these projects on the cities. It's not in the city's interest. And I'm sure Dikshu would understand that for a city, you need mass transit first, not tunnels that drive cars or flyovers. It is, if you don't have a good backbone of mass transit, no amount of any other project will solve a city's mobility problem. So, but who does that? You need the capacity. You need the empowered Metropolitan Planning Committee. I don't know if Gurgaon has it. If it has it, I don't know why it's failing. I'd like to have those insights.
Right. Dikshu wanted to add to it.
Yeah, Varghese, what I feel is that, I salute the vision of creating Viksit Bharat, and there's only that much we can expect from the office of the Prime Minister. The rest has to fall in place at its different levels. and Sandeep is right on this fact that, local authorities, city authorities completely fail in their duty and comes in the intervention from the states. I think one issue the time has come to look at: how long will urban development remain a state subject? Because there's only that much that I feel the center is able to govern and direct when urban development remains a state subject. On the other side of the spectrum, I also believe, like in many cities in the world, city authorities, the mayor of the authority literally functions as a CEO of the city and becomes solely responsible. Cities are huge today in terms of population, scale, size, infrastructure, even finances. So therefore, there needs to be a mechanism which is removed from the rest of the state, and the city can function to a large extent in its governance independently. That will give some freedom because the voice comes from those who are living there and they know their problems. Many times, the state governments are completely at a loss of understanding what the cities require. And that is becoming another very serious issue. But coming back to the aspect of infrastructure and its quality, I think that's something which no excuse can be given for it, because today in India, we have the technology, we have the materials, we have even the professionals, all are sitting in this country. And yet we are looking at international experts to come and do the job for us. That, I think, is, you are skewing the matter. You are finding excuses for it. There is enough talent in this country. Why don't you engage those professionals? Bring them to the fore. I know of professionals even in Bangalore who have been fighting for, being given representation and their thoughts coming on the table. I think the city authorities, the government needs to engage these professionals like it happens in any other developed part of the world. You're not just left to fill tenders to do a job. There is enough expertise there to look at the bigger picture of the cities as well.
But then, the process when we start, well, the process, as you said, is archaic. This fixation with the L1 bidder, it need not guarantee you a good contract, in the sense that a good work cannot be guaranteed with an L1 bidder. But that's been a norm that's been followed. And over there also, this tendency of corruption, because a lot of money is involved with these infrastructure projects, the tendency of corruption, the poor concrete, the poor tar that is being used, it just falls apart after, probably 1 or 2 months. That's the maximum that quality of work can take the pressure of city life. But the same infrastructure, if implemented in countries that we've seen are called developed, they tend to have a process to it where they want it to last for a certain period, and it lasts for a certain period. It comes with an expiry date that it lasts for a certain period. Here the maintenance is skewed, here the contract is skewed, and also most of the times, I think Sandeep would be agreeing with it, in a city like Bangalore, the population first goes to the outskirts, and then you have these private layouts that are made, they build their houses, and then the government comes with the infrastructure, rather than the infrastructure first being laid and then the houses coming. This itself is ad hoc development, and as long as our cities are subject to this ad hoc development, there's not going to be a solution to this.
Verghese, that part of development that you're talking of is actually not just ad hoc, it's illegal. The Town Planning Act clearly lay out that the local planning authority should approve any layout formation. Okay, about 80 to 90% of layouts in Bangalore are illegal, and there is zero enforcement. This problem started about 3 to 4 decades ago. When these started cropping up, government did not, and that's because the government is at state level. The state is managing the city, therefore it takes a while for the government to realize what's happening on the ground. Which is a strong case for the devolution, and exactly what Dikshu was talking about, how it happens. The devolution is what I was talking about, which is actually laid out in 2 pages of the Constitution called the 74th Amendment. It talks about how governance and planning have to be devolved to the 3rd tier of governance, which is the city government. It should neither be a central subject nor a state subject. It has to be a local, so that people are in connect with people who are directly in contact with their surroundings have a say in how development happens. And that is true of all the good, well-developed parts of the world. We seem to stick to a very colonial,
Dikshu,
form of government.
let me get in Dikshu Kukreja as well. Dikshu, what is the irony about this entire thing is that all major urban centers, you've listed that in the graphics also, each center, all of them have a similar problem. Bad drains, bad roads, their wetlands have been encroached upon, their natural drains have been encroached upon, and poor quality work. The symptoms are the same. It's not that each city has a different problem. All of them have the same problem. That means there is a common factor to all of this.
Absolutely, Varghese. So let me give you a common solution to all of it. Trust me, the solution is really simple. Wherever planning has even happened, I mean, it's easy for me to talk about greenfield areas, but the challenge is existing urban areas. So let me address that. Whatever has been built has been built. However, with technology today, we have instruments which can allow us to do an analysis of what is existing. What is the actual lay of the land? For example, Gurgaon, I was explaining to somebody, it's perfectly naturally built. You know, the elevation level between the foothills of the Aravallis to the Najafgarh basin where the water flows is 60 to 70 meters. Over the distance it has to traverse, it's ideal for a very good flow, natural flow of water to take place. But you know what we've done to this image on your screen is showing what we have done to Gurgaon. So the simple solution is do a proper assessment of what are the ground conditions today. Understand that we need to do a network of blue-green infrastructure first, which means where are the low-lying areas, retention ponds, etc. Because it's not about just transferring the rainfall water quickly into a drain. We have to find solutions for that water to percolate, for that water to be absorbed right where it's falling, the rain is falling. And that helps even the water table of the area. Because a few months from now, you'll call me for a discussion that why is Gurgaon going dry? There's no water there. So assess the blue-green infrastructure of the city. And after that, you need to develop the right planning strategies. Just building more drains is not going to solve the problem. First, you need to see what is the actual lay of the land. And likewise, the solution goes for commuting, like Sandeep mentioned about the right mass transit systems, the right routes for the mass transit system, because they become the nerves of a city where development can then take place or high density development can take place. I'm designing India's first transit-oriented development. And that whole model rests on the fact that wherever you have a mass transit station, you do high density development there rather than creating an urban sprawl. So the solutions are all there. And like you said, if the problems are common in all the cities, I would say to a large extent, the solutions are also common. But we need to take that common sense approach to it and then build on it.
Well,
trying to just change completely directions of natural means of rainwater disposal, etc., is not the way. That's human arrogance at its worst.
Right. Thank you, gentlemen, for in fact giving your valuable inputs into this discussion, especially when we in fact look at how two stories, one from the north in Gurugram and one from Bangalore that has come in, and how the infrastructure problems are pulling our cities down when it's supposed to in fact go forward. And with this hope, authorities are able to in fact understand that it's time to pull up their socks and to understand the layout of the ground and make the right development choices and plan as well. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us in this special debate. We slip into a short break now. Don't go anywhere. We have more on the other side.
Oh no, बहुत बोर लग रहा है.
Take a date, not bites.
No added sugar, प्रिजर्वेटिव के बिना. डेट्स, बादाम, पिस्ता, काजू और शहद से तैयार किया गया Lion Dates Nut Bites.
Lion date, not bites.